Hey guys, it's me, Brett Iwan, the voice of Mickey Mouse. Oh boy. And you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast is thrilled to announce that we are now on Patreon. Dive deeper into the world of animation, films, and behind-the-scenes stories with your hosts Aljon and Dave Bossert. Not only will you be helping to keep the magic alive, but will be part of our special community. We want to thank friend of the show, Joshua Volkert, as well as Skull Rock crew members, Steve Minch and Chris Banis for their support. If you would like to join our Skull Rock crew, please visit our Patreon link in our show notes or visit patreon.com/Skull Rock Podcast. Thank you for listening and for your continued support of everything we do.
Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
Aye, mateys, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock Podcast. Proceed at your own risk and mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome back to yet another edition of Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's going on in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon, musician and longtime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and pop culture fanatic. And you can email me, Aljon, ALJON, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, Disney historian, author, and traveling man. Yeah. Welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on our very own Skull Rock YouTube channel. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, that's right. I am a traveling man, and I am heading out to Miami. In fact, I think when our listeners hear this show, I'll be in the air flying to Miami.
There you go, man. You are a man of mystery and travel and all that good stuff. So have fun in Miami. I hope the weather treats you well there.
Oh, come on. You're talking Florida in the middle of July, for crying out loud.
I know what that's like.
You know, I'm just going to have a towel around my waist because I'm going to walk out and just feel like I was stepping out of a shower.
Yeah. Let's hope that it's a little bit kinder to you. Just coming back on the heels of the vacation from last week, we're still trying to come down from it. And I ain't missing that. July weather in Orlando. I'm not missing it.
Well, I take it was very humid in Orlando, and you had your the afternoon rain shower that comes through every day, right?
That's exactly what happened. We had our ponchos ready to go, and the kids had their raincoats, so we were ready. We were prepared. We know what it was like, and yeah, for sure. But it's still super hot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, something, we're continuing our great interview with Kevin Lima. July is Kevin Lima month.
Yes.
We also have another installment of our poet laureate, the Skull Rock poet laureate, Matt Mason, reading one of his Disneyland poems. And we've got the show is chock full. We've got part 4 of the Kevin Lima interview, which has been getting phenomenal response, by the way.
How could it not? I mean, he's talking about all of his projects and Tarzan and everything, Goofy movies. So it's kind of like, what's not to love about Kevin? And I guess this week we're going to talk about.
And not only that, he's just a great guy.
Of course. He's the best. And this is a fascinating take, and I'm glad that we're taking the time to discuss his career. So it's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope the week has been going great for you, Dave, and the rest of our listeners. I want to encourage everybody really quick before we get into the meat of this podcast to check out Dave's discussion on the 70th anniversary of Disneyland that you did recently, Dave. You did this live stream. I don't even remember. Oh, wait. Do you remember where it was? Because Yeah, you did it with your Disney historian folks that you usually do your live streams every quarter. You usually do a live stream with them. But, that was with Neil Cantor.
That's right, Neil Cantor. John Ramirez, right. And that was through the Wonderful World of Animation. That's on Facebook. People can, it's recorded, so if you missed it, you can see it. We did that last week or the week before. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, something.
Yeah, it's a good watch. So we put it on our Facebook page. So everybody go out there and check it out. I'll put a link in our show notes as well. It's just a great look at the parks and everything, especially Disneyland is such a wonderful place. And I feel like everybody needs to do their travel to the Mecca at some point, the pilgrimage to Disneyland, the park that Walt walked in. Right. So.
That's right. Absolutely. And you know something, I really enjoy doing those Facebook Live events. They're just fun. And there's a great audience that joins in, and they're peppering us with questions and comments. And we always try to talk about unusual things, things that, maybe the listeners weren't aware of. And that's the fun part of, participating in those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, I would love to get your take on what they're going to do with Tomorrowland over there at Disneyland, because it's just such a crazy place right now. Just, I know, right?
Something, Tomorrowland was always the really most difficult land for Walt, because when you came up with something and decided to do it, by the time you built it, it was kind of outdated almost. And I really loved what they did with Tomorrowland at Paris Disneyland, because they did a Jules Verne overlay to Tomorrowland, so that it's sort of this retro, futuristic, steampunk kind of feel to it, and that to me doesn't get old.
No, when you do something like that where you're kind of locked into a fantasy vision of the future, it never gets old. But when you focus so much on the technology and a showcase, and that's the thing, right? So I think you covered this in your books previously and in some of your essays, but as Walt is looking to have sponsorship for Tomorrowland, those technologies always get switched out, and these days sponsors are just not apt to sponsor attractions in the way they used to. So
exactly. Although I'll tell you, with some of these companies that are just, NVIDIA just passed the $4 trillion mark as far as corporate valuation goes. Can you imagine that? I mean, they could easily sponsor an attraction at Disney, and it would be, it'd be like loose change out of the sofa.
Oh, it certainly would, and I think it would also build the brand into. Not that they need it. That's a thing, right? We just throw the money over there, but I think it would. Bring people to the table and be like, NVIDIA is a great company. We use their chips every day. Everybody does.
Yeah,
everybody. So, oh, well. Anyway, gang, yes, Kevin Lima month. We're going to keep it going. And I guess right now we're going to launch into
Skull Rock Podcast. Answers your email.
Let's check the bag for this week, Dave. We've got some comments.
Yeah, we got some great comments about part 3 of the Kevin Lima interview. And Michael writes, Tarzan was a badass film that I saw in theaters. It was back in 1999. It's epic action comedy, fun, environmental, and it reminds me of Bambi, The Jungle Book, and The Lion King. After I had a video game of Tarzan, it was a computer game I played over and over again. Yeah, he's very enthusiastic.
I would say so.
Pam writes that, I just finished part 3. I love Kevin's insight on co-directing Tarzan. Great stories behind the production on the feature. Eric writes, I'm just loving these Kevin Lima stories and film history. It's really a fun interview and podcast. Bravo, everybody. So, that's the kind of reaction we're getting on social media for these interviews. And so I hope people continue to check out. We're dropping part 4 of our interview with Kevin today. Yeah. I think that was it. Do we have anything else?
More. We have more from YouTube.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So Chicago Paul 76 says, first of all, love this podcast. A question about how the sausage is made. When you do these multi-week interviews, is the interview done in one sitting and broken into 50 to 45-minute segments, or are you actually doing this over multiple days? I assumed it was one long interview, but there are weeks where it sounded like the guest has gotten feedback on an earlier week from some of their comments. Dave, why don't you go ahead and tackle that?
I don't know. Should we pull the curtain back and show the inner workings of the Skull Rock media empire?
Why the hell not?
Well, basically, folks, when we do an interview, we usually do 2 episodes at a clip. So with the Kevin Lima interviews, there's 6 parts to it. So we did 3 separate interviews with Kevin, and each one was about an hour and a half or so. So we find that an hour and a half with a guest is a sort of the right amount of time. I think if you go longer, you start getting fatigued a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, we typically break those into 40, 45-minute segments, and that's generally how we do our interviews. And our guests really appreciate the fact that we're spending time with them. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes there's folks out there that will interview somebody and try and cram a 40-year career into 30 minutes. And we just don't want to do that. We want to take the time, especially with people like Kevin and other guests that we've had over the years, to explore their career and to talk about the behind the scenes of projects and things. And that just takes time. And that's really kind of our format. That's what we like to do, and we're nonconformists here at Skull Rock. Aljon and I are pirates. We do what we want.
Yes, we do. We do what we want. Hey, Mark Hendry on YouTube says, there are some tidbits in here I never knew. And this is in reference to Kevin Lima's part 2. Journey to direct a Goofy movie. He continues, I didn't know that they were developing a version of Frog Prince back then. Looking forward to the Tarzan episode. Tarzan rocks. And it does. He also has another comment. In my opinion, that thing about, quote, learning more in your first 6 months in a real job than in the years of college is kind of true. But I partially just because the early years of learning art can take a lot more time and effort for only a little bit of progress, so that you jump in competency once you start working. It's more like patience from earlier is paying off, if that makes sense. Yes, it does make sense. And it makes sense because just like anything else, you're developing a muscle, right? Yeah. And it takes a while for you to find results or get results. But after you have the muscle memory, you continue on that path, and while you continue to learn, things might, as you put in hours, just come a little bit sooner, because you already have developed a muscle and develop new muscles. So
yeah, and he said earlier at the beginning of his comment about he didn't realize Frog Prince was being developed that far back. You'd be surprised on a lot of the Disney films. Little Mermaid first. Disney first started to try to tackle that in the 1940s, and it didn't get made until the late 80s. The Snow Queen,
exactly.
Another project, they tried to tackle that back in the 40s or so, and they couldn't really crack the story nut on it, and that got shelved. And then you had a set of directors who tried to work on that in the early 2000s, and their version didn't move forward, and they moved on to other things. And then another group of directors picked up on it, in the 2010-ish or something like that, and then all of a sudden you had the film Frozen, you know? So a lot of these projects, you know, various people try to do some development on it, and it doesn't really get traction. It gets, you know, goes on the shelf, goes into the archives, and, you know, somebody may come along, you know, a few years later or decades later and pick up that project and say, hey, you know what, I think I have a take on it. So there you have it.
Well, there you go. And I'm sure there are more concepts that are kind of half-baked that are still left in terms of story development that are kind of put on the shelf until someone can actually crack that story, or the technology is there to help tell the story that needs to be told. I mean, it's like that with George Lucas. You know, George Lucas has so many stories and story treatments that he's put up over the years that he was not touching. And just now they're able to touch some of that because the technology is here to finally put it in a format, whether it's animation or whether it's in a streaming series or movie, that they can finally tell the story the way George wanted it to be done. I hope they can go back and do that, because some of these newer stories are not that good, but
there you go. Well, you know, as far as Disney goes, there was a book put out a number of years ago. I think it was by Charles Solomon, The Disney That Never Was.
That's right.
And that, you know, chronicles a lot of different projects that they were trying to develop and never became films.
Well, I can't wait to see that. And, you know, it's just like all of us that are fans of the theme parks. How many of those, you know, concepts like Westcott got shelved, and they're brilliant concepts. I know, Dave, you've worked on a lot of concepts and things that never made it to fruition, probably. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these things happen, and it's part of the process. It's part of getting to the thing that actually does get made, exactly. You know, and you have to go through those, you know, convulsions and iterations in order to create great art.
I love that. You know, it's a beautiful thing. Well, keep the discussion going. Feel free to make comments on our YouTube page, on our Facebook. You can do it, of course, on our podcast links as well, where everywhere you can find podcasts, or, of course, send us those emails. We love to read it in a future episode. And now it's time for us to check in with our poet laureate, Matt Mason, to celebrate Disneyland's 70th.
He's a poet.
I just never took you for a poet before.
A poet?
Just so you know, since you're new here, I'm a poet, a street poet.
Celebrate Disneyland's 70th anniversary with Skull Rock Podcast's poet laureate Matt Mason.
The Skull Rock poet laureate Matt Mason here to read us one of his poems from his book of Disneyland poetry, At the Corner of Fantasy and Maine, Disneyland, Midlife, and Churros. Matt, have at it.
It's an honor. This is the title poem. The whole book goes back and forth around Disneyland, and this set in 2018. The title poem is called At the Corner of Fantasy and Maine. You've got the castle's shadow, not the castle. Got mallards looking for a moat, photographers with poses to pick from as horse-drawn streetcars clop by. You've got donuts, different every week. Sometimes a lemonade maple bar, sometimes pineapple and pink, at the place where lands transition from Photo Supply Co. to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, where you're never quite sure the pinpoint, the borderline between where dust needs sweeping up and where it makes you fly. All you know is that somewhere nearby, someone always has the particular magic that turns $3 into coffee and a paper cup.
That was wonderful, Matt. Once again, Matt reading from his Disneyland poetry book called At the Corner of Fantasy and Maine, Disneyland, Midlife, and Churros by Matt Mason, and it's published by the Old Mill Press, and you can go to theoldmillpress.com and get a author-signed copy of this book if you'd like.
And it is an award-winning book.
It is an award-winning book. But thank you, Matt. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Dave. Happy birthday, Disneyland.
All right, Dave. How about that? Another great segment for Matt Mason. You got to love that.
I think we're probably the only podcast that has a resident poet laureate.
I love that.
And I love Matt Mason. I think he's a terrific guy, and he's a very, very talented poet. I'll give you a little factoid about Matt. Matt traveled to every single county in Nebraska to read some of his poetry.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll give you a second factoid. He did some pop-up poetry readings at donut shops around the Omaha, Nebraska area.
I love that.
Yeah, and he signed copies of his Disneyland poetry book, which, as I've mentioned and just mentioned, at the corner of Fantasy and Maine, Disneyland, Midlife, and Churros.
There you go. Well, that's awesome. Well, we look forward to checking out another week of Matt's wonderful poetry here on the show. And if you want, check out the link in the show notes to pick up the brand new, well, it's not a brand new book, but you can check out his book, 70th and Maine, right there at Old Mill Press. Check it out. All right, Dave, what is in the theater? What is streaming? Dave, what did you check out this week?
Well, I actually didn't get to the theater this week. I am actually seeing an IMAX version of Superman, and I'll talk about that next week. But on the small screen, I have been watching Ballard on Amazon Prime. Are you familiar with this show?
I am not.
Season 1. This is from Michael Connolly, who did the Bosch series and the Bosch Legacy series. Ballard is a sort of a spin-off from Bosch. And the synopsis is Detective Renee Ballard leads the LAPD's new and underfunded cold case division, tackling the city's long-forgotten crimes. Detective Ballard navigates personal trauma, personal challenges, and life-threatening dangers to expose the truth. Maggie Q is the star as Renee Ballard. John Carroll Lynch, who's a great character actor, and you as soon as you see his picture, you go, oh my gosh, I've seen him in a million things. He plays Thomas LaFont, who's working on the team with Renee Ballard. Michael Mosley is in this. And also, I will say that Titus Wolander, who was Bosch, he is making cameos in some of the episodes.
Nice.
So if you were a fan of Bosch, you're going to love this. And the thing I'll tell you is that Rotten Tomatoes gives it 100%.
Wow.
Yeah, which is unusual. IMDb gives it a 7.7 out of 10, and 76% of people like this TV show.
How about that?
So I love it. I'm a fan. I was a fan of the Bosch series and the Bosch Legacy series, so I really enjoyed this series so far. It's not over. I still have several more episodes to watch, but check it out on Prime. Nice. I think you'll enjoy it. I also watched the show also on Prime called Countdown with Jensen Ackles and Eric Dane, Ulu Latufaku.
Wow.
Kifu.
Okay.
He's a Pacific Islander actor. He's really terrific. He's been in some Australian series. He's also in this. The synopsis is an LAPD officer joins a secret task force to investigate a suspicious murder, but uncovers a sinister plot that requires the team to unite and save millions in the city. This is 6.8 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes only gives it 38%. 47% of people who watched the show liked it. I thought it was okay. Nothing to write home about, but I've enjoyed watching it and watching it unfold. And then finally, I've been watching season 4 of The Bear. A young chef from the fine dining world comes home to Chicago to run his family sandwich shop after a heartbreaking death in his family. A world away from what he's used to, Carmi must balance the soul-crushing realities of small business ownership, his strong-willed and recalcitrant kitchen staff, and his strained family relationships, all while grappling with the impact of his brother's suicide. As Cammy fights to transform both the shop and himself, he works alongside a rough, around-the-edges kitchen crew that ultimately reveals itself as his chosen family. This stars Jeremy Allen White, Oya Edebri. I'm just terrible at pronouncing people's name. Molly Gordon, Abby Elliott. Maddie Matheson is a great character in this show. He's an actual real chef out in the world.
Yes.
And he's one of the funniest characters that you can see. He's just like comic relief. He's absolutely fantastic. John Barenthal is the deceased brother who comes back in sort of flashbacks. Oliver Platt, Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, it's just really an absolutely terrific cast, you know. I'm trying to think who else is this. Eban Morse Backrack. Is fantastic. I think he's in Fantastic Four that's coming up.
Yeah, and Joel McHale and Robert Reiner does a guest spot in it.
There's just a really, really great cast. So The Bear season 4. The one thing I'll say, if you've been watching The Bear, season 4 is it's a little slow out of the gate. You're not really sure, when it's going to start picking up, but stick with it. I think it's really well done. I've really enjoyed it. And by the way, Jeremy Allen White is going to be playing Bruce Springsteen in a biopic. And I saw the trailer for it, and I was absolutely amazed. Anyway, Aljon, that is all I watched this week. Okay. It was a light week for me. I had a lot of other stuff going on. But what have you been watching?
Well, we watched the series finale of SWAT, and it looks like Shamar Moore is going to be having another vehicle for, another spinoff based on SWAT. And it's always sad when you see a series that you really like kind of come to an end, much like Criminal Minds, as I mentioned. Criminal Minds came to an end, and I love those procedural type of shows, and you spend so much time with these characters. And even though Criminal Minds, I believe, is going to come back for another season of streaming on Paramount, I hate to say goodbye to such a great ensemble cast. And slowly over the past few years, they've been kind of whittling it away. It's been one of those shows that has been on the bubble for the past, 3 years, but they keep on renewing the show. So some of the cast gets trimmed away, and then they add a couple new members. But the strength of this show, not only is Shamar Moore great on SWAT, but the rest of the team is great too. And really like the ensemble cast. So I'm going to miss that. What I will say, though, this week we checked out Trainwreck. The Trainwreck series is quite interesting. It's a documentary on Netflix, and this time out, we checked out Trainwreck Poop Cruise. Are you familiar with the Poop Cruise, Dave? Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I've heard about this, but I honestly just didn't want to watch it.
Well, I can tell you that this was a PR disaster for the Carnival Cruise Line in 2013, I believe, and I am a big fan of cruises. Of course, my wife is a travel agent. We love to cruise. We've been on several Carnival cruises. It's been several years since then, but we do love the cruise lines. Of course, Disney Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean, we love it. But this particular one is about a luxury cruise that turns disastrous when an engine fire cuts power to the entire ship. 4,000 passengers face failing systems, sewage leaks, food shortages, sparking passenger unrest in media coverage of the Poop Cruise. Of course, this was round-the-clock coverage on CNN during that time, but it was supposed to be a cruise going from Galveston to Cozumel, Mexico, and there was a fire, and it burned out all the backup systems. They were adrift. And they were supposed to, this was like day 2 on the cruise. They were supposed to, they just left Port of Mexico, and they're going to be cruising 2 days back home. And lo and behold, they get set adrift. and it ends up being like another 4 days of them being kind of shipwrecked, kind of in the middle of nowhere, with no power. And what runs on power on the cruise ship? The toilets. Yep. And all of their backup systems are gone. All their food is gone. And it's kind of for me, it's incompetent. Like, how could you let these people, on this ship with all this food and, just get thrown off? And then they do this thing, after, a day, they're like, well, we're going to open the bar. Whose idea was that? They're just going to start giving drinks away. You know what's going to happen. It was literally like Lord of the Flies on this thing. It's insane.
Well, yeah, in a situation like that, the last thing you want to do is give alcohol to the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I'm sure fights started breaking out.
Yeah, well, of course, the fights started breaking out. And then when the tugboats came, it got even worse because the ship got topsy-turvy. The stabilizers don't work. So what's going to happen?
It's rocking back and forth. Now people are getting seasick, right?
Well, it's not just that, Dave, but where did they have to go to the bathroom?
I know.
It was it was a failure of catastrophic levels. And
what cruise line was it?
It's Carnival. It was the fun ship.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
This was not Disney, that's for sure. But I can tell you that it was atrocious. But it was it was an interesting documentary, as these train wreck documentaries go. I've seen several of them already. It is a fascinating look. Check out Trainwreck. I give it a thumbs
How many
up.
episodes?
There are several. This is just one. The show itself is like 90 minutes long documentary.
Oh, so it's like
it's
one. It's one episode on a disaster.
Exactly. So
okay.
Yeah, they covered Lollapalooza that year that they had the riots that broke out. Yeah. They covered another festival where people.
The fire festival.
Yeah,
probably?
A bunch of different things like that happened. Speaking of a crap show, let's talk about another. I am a big fan of reality TV, or at least I was back in the day when it was a brand new format. There were so many of those things to come out in the early 2000s, and of course I got swept up by it. Check out on Vice, Dark Side of Reality TV, which is a look behind the scenes of some of the most prolific and iconic reality shows of our day, from Survivor to Housewife franchises to Hell's Kitchen and beyond. I checked out The Surreal Life on VH1. The Surreal Life is what happens when you pluck out these celebrities and put them into a house, and they live together for several weeks, and of course drama ensues. It was something that my wife and I, earlier when we got married, we moved in, to the same place together, and we were just like, let's just watch this crap. And we saw it, and we were just, fascinated by it. When all of these celebrities, if you will, maybe not the A-list of celebrities, but celebrities nonetheless, living together. Craziness happened, and it's a very interesting take on what happened behind the scenes, as you can imagine. So check it out. It's on Vice. The other thing we checked out on Disney Plus was Frozen, the musical. So I enjoyed it. I can tell you that Frozen the musical had, of course, based on the Disney animated film, of course, the synopsis, Let It Go, all that good stuff was in there. But they, of course, added some extra songs in there. And the cast was great. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the effects. I enjoyed the Broadway show. Dave, I don't know if you've checked out the Broadway show at all. But I enjoyed it a lot.
I have not.
I will say director Brett Sullivan did really well. Of course, Samantha Barks, who's played Elsa, Laura Dawkes plays Anna. They did a great job. I really enjoyed it. Love the music. Love the singing.
Is this basically like filming the stage show, or is this a different production?
It's exactly how they did Hamilton on Disney.
Okay,
Plus.
got it. Okay,
so
a multi-camera shoot.
Yes.
of the stage production.
Yes, it was wonderfully done. I enjoyed it. The kids enjoyed it. But I will say this is PG-13. There are some extra kind of, adult flourishes they put in there, maybe a little tongue-in-cheek innuendo, if you will. So it may not be suitable for all ages. I know that it went over the heads of my children because all they want to see is they want to hear Let It Go. That's what they want. That's what we watched this week. Feel free to hit us up with what you'd like for us to review or what your thoughts are on what we reviewed in a future episode. Send us those emails and we'll make sure we cover it.
We will.
Yes, absolutely.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Oop, as I pressed the wrong one. Here we go. Hold on a second. I'm on the right page. Here we go.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
Superman, Dave. Superman saves the day. How about that? Saves the day for DC
I think it's Superman saves DC. How's that?
That works. A solid $115 million to $120 million projected domestic opening. Of course, this is directed by James Gunn, who is no stranger to superhero movies. He's been doing a tremendous job for Marvel Studios until he was ousted, then was plucked up by Warner Brothers to do this. And, of course, now he's helming or co-helming the DC reboot, if you will, over there at that studio.
The DC Universe.
The DC Universe. Of course, James Gunn's Superman headed for that box office debut. As I said, it's going to be, pretty substantial. And I think it's got great reviews thus far. Pretty good reviews. Of course, he co-runs DC with Peter Safran, of course, a big old producer. So he's kind of the creative behind the whole DC reboot. So, Dave, I can't wait to hear your take on it. I hope to see it at some point. It's so expensive to take the family to see a movie. But
I mean, listen, I've said this before. I mean, I'm going to see an IMAX version of Superman. 2 tickets, it's like $63 for the tickets. And then, we always get something at the concession stand. And, that's another $40 or $45,
Exactly.
So for 2 people to go to see an IMAX version of a film, you're dropping more than $100.
It's certainly, it's expensive. Now, this Superman will be the first superhero film to cross $100 million in its North American bow since Marvel Studios and Ryan Reynolds debuted Deadpool and Wolverine, which launched to $211 million over the summer of 2024. Of course, they all want to blame superhero fatigue. You know what I call it, Dave? It's called crappy story fatigue.
Yeah, no. Look, if it's a good movie, it's going to do well.
Yeah,
that's all I can say. It'll be interesting to see what Superman does on its second weekend, and we'll talk about that next week.
Exactly. Elsewhere in the box office, Jurassic World Rebirth looks to collect about $39 million in its second week. I guess they've already gained $239 million, and that's another movie that I would like to see myself to check out because I'm a big fan of the franchise and I'm a big fan of Scarlett Johansson, so I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, and by the way, as I mentioned to our listeners, Superman was, it has to do over $500 million to be considered successful. Mm-hmm. So, you should really watch the box office, not only domestic but global, for this film this opening weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, F1 rounds the haul as well. And then, of course, How to Train Your Dragon's also still doing well. Elio is actually at the top 5, still cracking the top 5. However, it's not hauling and performing the way Disney expected. But then again, I don't know if Disney expected large numbers from the film to begin with, which is why it's been buried in the media. So anyway, let's move on, shall we? Okay. Disney Plus, there's a lot of stuff coming this year. New footage and upcoming original movies and fan favorites are coming, and teasers are out there right now on YouTube. So check this out. The 60-second sizzle has got new stuff featuring Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which is a great family project. Of course, King of the Hill is back, Dave. Have you seen the King of the Hill preview? They're bringing it back.
I haven't seen that preview, but I heard that it was coming back.
Yeah, it's interesting. Of course, Marvel TV's Wonder Man is in there. Dave, you're a fan of Only Murders in the Building. It's coming back for yet another season. FX's Alien Earth will come to streaming in August. Let's see here. King of the Hill, Season 14, streams August 4th. Only Murders in the Building Season 5 is also coming in the fall. Percy Jackson and the Olympian Season 2 streaming in December. Marvel's Wonder Man is going to be streaming December of this year. Right now, Zombies 4, Dawn of the Vampires is also now streaming. So, check this out. Should be really cool stuff happening in this next couple quarters for the streaming service, Disney+. Wednesday, Season 2 trailer teases Jenna Ortega attempting to save Emma Myers or die trying. We are big fans of the work there of Jenna Ortega and looking forward to seeing what Wednesday Addams is up to at Nevermore Academy coming up. Dave, did you check this out?
The latest trailer is fantastic. So, I would encourage our listeners to go check out the latest trailer for Wednesday Season 2.
Absolutely. It's going to be, part 1, August 6th, and part 2 of the season dropping September 3rd. What do you think of this, the strategy of splitting up the drop for half of the series and the other half another month?
I don't know what to tell you other than, I've gotten used to the fact that an entire season drops on Netflix, and then on the other streamers, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some shows are dropping weekly. Some shows get dropped the entire season. I don't know what to make of it. I find it frustrating though, Aljon, when I go to start watching something and I really like it. I want to binge watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people do
over a couple of days or over a week or whatever. I like the fact that I get to watch shows whenever I want to watch them.
I get that. A lot of times I have to wait until a series completes its drop, except for Criminal Minds, which they did it weekly this time. They really, they do that with Star Trek over there. Paramount is really bad about just dropping it every week. And Disney Plus, too, to a degree, does that a lot. I think they want to keep the fans engaged and reap the benefits of them talking about a series over an extended amount of time for social media impressions. I think that's what they end up doing to try to recoup some of that. They want to see the benefits of that. So anyway,
I get it. It's just, I like the fact when a new season or a new series drops, they'll drop 2 or 3 episodes. I mean, that gets you hooked at least, and invested in a show. And then if the rest of the season drops, but I know a lot of people now who just say, yeah, that's on my list to watch. I'm waiting for all the shows to drop and then I'm going to watch it.
I have a huge queue. I have yet to see the Ironheart. I have yet to see Andor season 2. It's been so busy, but I will catch up at some point. Speaking of catching up, movie theater industry, as we talk about every week, is trying to catch up and trying to attract new people and bring them back to the theaters. Founder of Alamo Drafthouse says private rooms, gourmet meals, and guest attendance are a key to bringing more people through the doors. Dave, what do you say about these experiences that kind of elevate people coming to the theater?
Well, I have to say bravo to Tim League, who is one of the founders of Drafthouse, and the fact that he's come up with a concept for a theater. It's called the Metro Private Cinema, which is located in Lower Manhattan, in the Chelsea neighborhood of Lower Manhattan. And it's going to have it's a 20-screen complex. And what's great about this is that you can do, 6 to 20 or so people in a theater. And you can go in there and have, you go in there with a bunch of your friends. You take over the theater, and you see whatever movie you want to watch. right? So it's not just the current movies. You could go in there and say, I want to see a classic film, and they're going to play it for you. You're in there, and I think the way this is set up is that you're going to be able to go in there. It's not cheap, by the way. You're going in there and you're booking it for 4 hours, right? So a 4-person theater is going to run $200 for a 4-hour booking. And a 12-person theater costs $600. Food costs are $100 a person. They've got, gourmet chef making meals for you. And if you want alcoholic beverages, add another $50 a head for that, right? So this is a destination as far as I'm concerned, and it's an experience. I'm actually looking forward to maybe trying this with a group of friends in New York and just going in and taking over a little place and watching either, a first-run movie that's just out in the theaters or, watching some classic film and having a gourmet meal and drinks.
Yeah, I'd love to. I would love to host a party and bring all my friends to see something like, Star Wars, and just check that out.
Absolutely.
Because you can't, that's the real way to see, something like those classic films in a theater and have a great experience. And I love Alamo Drafthouse. I remember, when I was traveling for work, I literally would book some of my travel, and it's like if it was close to an Alamo Drafthouse, I'd stay at a hotel close by and go see a Marvel film because I was always out and about. I remember seeing Captain America, the First Avenger, in Alamo Drafthouse, and I loved it. It was so cool. So
what's great about this story, though, Aljon, is that Tim League is doing something. He's out there experimenting. He's trying things.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing that from the big movie chains, because the big movie chains haven't even figured out how to crack their concession stand and make it more efficient and a more enjoyable experience. Because I keep going to my local theater, which is a Regal Cinema, and you could have 40 people online at the concession stand, and there's like 1 or 2 slack-jawed teenagers who are moving in slow motion, helping people, right? And then you've got managers wandering around the place, and you sit there and think to yourself, why isn't the manager getting behind the counter when they have a busy moment, And it's just absolutely infuriating sometimes going to the local Cineplex because they're doing everything they can to repel customers, not attract customers, repel them.
Yeah. When I saw Led Zeppelin in IMAX recently, the line for concessions was so flicking long. It was long. And I'm thinking, man, oh my God, all I want is a large soda and a popcorn. Can I please help myself? Because I don't want to miss it.
And that's like a no-brainer. Why don't you have a grab-and-go area where people could just walk up and take a pre-poured medium Coke, and a bag of popcorn and just pay for it, tap your card and walk away.
You know what?
It's crazy.
They have vending machines that have cards. Just tap. It's like, here's your soda, your cool soda, and here's your thing. I would have just gone straight there. It's like tap, 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 and get all my candy and my soda and my goobers and just get the heck out of there. And
it's infuriating, and I honestly, but getting back to this article, Tim League, kudos to him, founder of Alamo Drafthouse. He's out there, he's experimenting, he's doing something, and that's really what you need to do. You need to create the cinema experience as a destination that people say, hey, let's get a couple of our friends together and go take a theater for 4 hours and have a meal and watch a movie,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dave. Obituary roll call for this week, and we have some sad news. Pokemon star dead at the age of 71. This is from Newsweek. James Carter Carhart Cathcart, the voice actor who played the beloved characters in the Pokemon franchise, died at the age of 71. His death was throat cancer. His wife, Jeannie Gary, said in the New York Times, of course, he voiced Meowth and Professor Oak in Pokemon, as well as several other characters as well. It's very sad. Pokemon was part of my life growing up, and of course it's always sad when you see these voice actors pass away. We talked a little bit about this, Dave, in the pre-interview, but we have here Diogo Jota, who married Ruth Cardoso 2 weeks before he had an untimely passing in a car accident, Dave. And he was a premier soccer star in Spain. And it's just really sad. A couple of weeks after he got married, he gets into this car wreck in his Lamborghini and dies. And it's so sad, Dave.
Aljon, all I can say is I saw a picture of the Lamborghini. The entire front half of the car was obliterated.
Unbelievable.
So that doesn't happen in a fender bender.
No.
You know what I mean? That is, going at a high rate of speed and then hitting an immovable object.
It's so sad, and he was only 28. Very sad indeed.
Yeah.
We didn't cover this a few weeks ago, but earlier in July, televangelist Jimmy Swaggart dies at the age of 90. And say what you will, but Swaggart was kind of like, back in the 80s, televangelism was at its all-time height. And he was the talk of the town for many reasons, not to mention, some of them embroiled in a lot of I don't know what I should call it.
I mean, look, he had a multi-hundreds of millions of dollar ministry.
Yes.
And he was the poster child of televangelists.
100%.
And if you watch the Gemstones, the series that the Magnificent Gemstones that was on HBO with Danny McBride and John Goodman and Adam Levine.
Yes.
Absolutely is a parody of those mega churches.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jimmy Swaggart, had his big scandal back in the day as well. But, when these people pass away, it's like, wow, that's a piece of pop culture that's passing away. Speaking of pop culture.
He was part of pop culture, that's for sure.
100%. And during our, my little hiatus while I was on vacation, we didn't mention that Ann Burrell from Food Network had passed away as well. Ann Burrell I believe she had some medical issues. Or actually, no, I guess they're still trying to figure out what those issues were. But she passed away suddenly at the age of 55 in her home in Brooklyn. This was several weeks ago. I will have to say that my friend was in that Worst Chefs in America and told me about his experience with working with Anne on the TV show and said that she was an absolute gem. And it's someone, like I said, from the Food Network, and we watch Food Network all the time in our house. And it's a shame that she passed very suddenly. So
absolutely shocking. And she was a wonderful, wonderful personality and host on the Food Network on the various shows that she had done over the years. Aljon, I walked out of my office the other day and into the main house here. And on the television in the family room, Nancy and Marley were watching a show on the Food Network that Ann Burrell hosted. And it was just kind of surreal to see her on television, knowing she had passed away weeks ago.
I know. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Well, in other news, before we move on to our big interview segment, let's talk about closing time for Tom Sawyer's Island at Rivers America over there at Magic Kingdom. This happened a few days ago. It's very sad, of course. Muppets Courtyard recently closed down with Muppets Vision 3D. Dinoland USA and sections are starting to shutter as they make way for new attractions. And, of course, another iconic area, Liberty Square Riverboat. Stopped taking passengers a few days ago, and Tom Sawyer Island is closed. Dave, they're putting in a whole new Cars Land experience out there in that area, Dave. It's very, or I'm sorry. Yeah, that is Cars Land, I believe they're putting in there. It's going to be very sad for sure.
Yeah, it is. Look, these things are sad. But the fact of the matter was that when Walt built Disneyland, it was his vision that it was never going to be finished. It was always going to be changing. There'd be attractions leaving and new attractions coming in. And I think this is the fulfillment of that. It's this continuous evolution of the parks. I certainly think that it would be there would be a huge outcry if it was happening at Disneyland, and I hope it doesn't happen at Disneyland. But the fact that it's happening down in Orlando, which is really a park that was built after Walt's death, just showcases the fact that the park has to continue to move and evolve. And Aljon, you were down there. Do people go to Tom Sawyer Island in Orlando? Because they do out here. No. But do they really go down in Florida?
No, not really. It's one that you bypass, really. My wife and I try to go down there every now and again, but because you have these reservation systems and you've got to be able to take in these attractions, since that attractions is kind of like a walk around attraction. There is no line or anything. People rarely.
It's a walk around attraction that is outdoors, right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine with the humidity and the heat in Florida this time of year, people want to get into enclosed attractions that are air conditioned.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's another reason to go to Country Bear Jamboree. And we loved it before the new Country Bear started doing all the Disney hit songs. We loved it, and we saw it, and we loved it. But it's sad. It is sad, but I understand people want it to be relevant. They want to be able to monetize all the different square footage of that area. And let's face it, for years and years now, Adventureland or Frontierland has been very much stagnant. And not a whole lot of people, they just literally go from Pirates all the way to Haunted Mansion, and they literally just keep walking. They just keep walking.
Yeah.
They don't
I think Frontierland needs like a big e-ticket attraction that's indoors, like, a Pirates or a Haunted Mansion. They need to come up with something great for Frontierland.
Well, that's what they're doing, Dave. So what is replacing it? Where Tom Sawyer Island, I can't say, is going to be replaced by Cars-inspired area called Piston Peak. So Piston Peak is inspired by the Rocky Mountain area. It's going to have some iconic sights and sounds from the American frontier and national parks. And, of course, it is Cars themed. So they're going to have all that area there, and we're going to explore a little bit of the Pixar Cars universe, and it should be really nice. The Disney D23, I guess, put up some concept art of this whole area and how it works in, and I'm very curious. It should be very nice, and I'm looking forward to seeing it myself, and I would assume that they're going to have another Cars kind of clone come into that area, very much like Cars Land over there at Disneyland. So interesting to see.
Well, I hope they do something with the riverboat. Maybe they can put it on the lake or something.
I hope so, because I love that riverboat. It's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, gang. That's the headlines for this week. Now let's sit back and relax. It is Kevin Lima month, so let's enjoy the next part 4, right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Hey, let's chat.
Let's chat.
So let's chat now.
Let's chat afterwards. And he said, let's chat again.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we are back for week 4. Can you believe this? With director Kevin Lima. Kevin, welcome back to the Skull Rock Podcast.
I'm sorry you can't shut me up. I keep talking, don't I?
Well, you know something? I think last week was such an enlightening conversation on the making of Tarzan. I mean, I thoroughly
Really? After all the features you've talked about, you found it enlightening?
Yes. No, you know why? Because no matter who we have on as a guest, and no matter how many times we've talked about a particular project, we're always hearing it from different points of view.
Right.
So you as the director on Tarzan, we're seeing your global point of view. But if we talk to somebody who was the head of layout or somebody who was in the effects department or whatever, we're seeing it from their perspective. And I think that's hugely important for our listeners to really get that rounded story, not just one point of view, but multiple point of views that really let people know what the process is really like. So anyway, but we left off because you finished Tarzan. It was a success. It got tons of accolades. It has an incredible soundtrack. I always go back to the soundtrack because it's just a wonderful soundtrack by Phil Collins. But
that soundtrack really holds together, I think, as a storytelling piece, right? You can sense the whole movie from the soundtrack.
Absolutely, without question. But we left off because you decided, you went into Peter and said, I want to go make a live action movie. Tell us what happened with that.
I basically packed up my boxes and left. He said, great. I think, good luck. I really think you have a future. And I went off and started taking meetings around Hollywood. And almost immediately, Peter took over the live action, the film division.
The studio,
The studio, the film. I don't know what his title was. What was it?
Well, he stepped in as chairman of the studio because Dick Cook left.
What? No, he was before Dick.
Wait a second.
Dick was still in distribution. Was it like what was his name? Rich? Someone Rich?
Yes, it was. It was
Rick Rich.
No, it wasn't Rick Rich, but it was. I know who you're talking about. He was a short-lived executive that made a lot of enemies, and when he was gone, that's when Peter stepped in.
Peter came in.
Yes, Peter came in as chairman of the studio.
Right. So it just so happened my luck bent that way. Right. Here was someone I had worked with who was now the chairman of Walt Disney Pictures, or the whole studio. I can't remember.
Well, he was chairman of Walt Disney Studios. Yeah.
At the same time, 102 Dalmatians lost their director. And I had worked with Glenn Close. She was the mother ape Kala.
Yes.
In Tarzan.
Correct.
And she had said to me during one of my recording sessions, she had said, Kevin, you direct much more like a live action director than like an animation director. You're actually in the middle of it, sort of talking through character dynamics and, motivations. And you give me like different kinds of direction. Like, I remember once I told her, like, the mood of this scene is much more blue. And she went, I got it. And she just went and did, a bunch of takes that way, where I think a lot of animation directors ask them, could you do it 3 different ways for me? Right? So they're collecting as opposed to interacting. But I had a lot of experience with actors.
Yeah.
So it just so happened she lost her director, remembered, and said to Peter, what about Kevin? So boom, boom, boom. It happened so quickly. I actually couldn't go on any of the European. No, that's not true. I couldn't hit like the last leg of the Tarzan rollout around the world because I had to start 102 Dalmatians. That's how quickly it happened. And they were already 3 months into pre-production.
Yeah.
So I had to step into had to come in and got a moving train.
And when you stepped into something like that, did you feel like you were constrained? You had to accept certain things, or were you able to have free reign to sort of like, I'm going to make this my vision kind of?
No, it totally wasn't my vision.
Okay.
It was unlike the other things I had done. I was able to shape and make them my own. This movie was already had a structure and a body. It knew what it was already, Bob Zuderker and Noni White, who have written on a lot of Disney films, including Tarzan, with me. They came in and they helped us do a rewrite that wasn't about throwing the movie out. It was just about reshaping it a bit more
and polishing it,
and reshaping it, and bringing some of our ideas to the forefront. But we were moving, sets. Some sets were already designed and were being built right at Shepherd Studios in London, so it was really moving.
So it was like you said, the train was moving. And you were coming on as the new engineer, so to speak, and you were being a company.
And I was jumping onto the train.
Yeah,
right?
But you were being a company man, saying, "Okay, I'm going to pick up where it was left off, and I'm going to bring this
like
along."
A Goofy movie. I thought, here's an opportunity, right?
Yes,
it's right in front of me. I have to take it. I asked for it. And here it is.
Yeah.
So I took it. Again, like I said earlier, everything I've gotten, I believe I asked for.
Yeah.
And if someone said yes, I had to be prepared to take it on. So I
did it. Yeah.
Yeah, they just did it.
But doing live action is very different than doing an animated film. And were there things that you needed to learn quickly?
It's different and the same.
Okay.
I would say it's very different. The process of making the movie is very different. The telling of a story with strong characters is exactly the same.
Okay.
You're doing the same thing. The big difference is in animation, you get to try things, right? Is that you get to put something up on its feet because you edit the movie in story reels before you make the movie in animation. And if something doesn't work, you throw it out and you start over. With this, you're going straight from a script to shooting it. And at the end of the day, you've got what you've got.
Yeah.
And you try to make a movie out of the pieces that you have.
Now the difference, though, is that with live action, you're shooting each scene multiple times from different angles. You're
collecting a lot of footage.
Yeah.
But the scene is what the scene is, right? The scene structure and what it and the story that it tells and the way that it tells it is the same, but you get to massage its shape.
Sure.
In the editing room.
Yeah.
You can't go and say, boy, I wish this story point was more concise, or I wish it was told in this manner, or I don't like this character at all. Let's rewrite him from the ground up and recast him if we need to. You can't do that.
Right.
In a live action movie. That's incredibly difficult to do unless you do like Back to the Future. Think them out in the first weeks, right?
And expensive.
And hugely expensive, right?
Yeah.
We're spending, I think at the time we were spending $200,000 a day.
Yeah.
To make a live action movie. So there are things that are different, and you have to respond in the moment, right? So things are happening in the moment, and you have to grab a hold of it and shape it in the moment.
Yeah.
In front of the camera. In animation, you have much more time to ponder. You can step back and you can say, let me think about that, and we'll get back to you. Hold off on that. Let's put this on the side for now. That can't happen in a live action shoot.
Yeah.
So
you've got to make those choices and decisions right at the moment, really.
Yeah. How a scene's going to be lit and how all of those pieces have to come together. There's planning, and you're trying to plan as much as possible, but there are things that happen in the moment, like a scene doesn't necessarily work.
Right.
We're going to get through the scene, right? Yeah. And we have to shoot it in an hour.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you the question of you had almost 4 years to do Tarzan.
Yeah.
How many shooting days did you have to shoot the live action on 102 Dalmatians, if you can remember, or roughly?
102 shooting days.
You did have 102 shooting days.
We did. But I'll tell you, it was probably 75 shooting days that were up and big. Yeah. And then a whole lot of, 30 that would have been what? That would have been 27 shooting days that were tiny splinter, units with puppies and things like that, right?
So the second unit shooting stuff.
Second unit was running almost the full time with us.
Right.
Because they would have to take the puppies. I would shoot the main actors and the main action with the dogs. And there were puppies in those scenes, I would shoot those things. But if there was a scene that was happening on the floor while the actors were in a room and this other scene was happening outside, that would all go to second unit.
Yeah.
And we would storyboard that. And after we left the set, the second unit would step in and they would shoot those puppies. Because sometimes it would take you 75 takes to get the puppy to do what you wanted it to do in any given.
Yeah. Wow.
That was very, very time consuming.
Yeah. How much of the shooting was on location and how much was in stages? And where were the stages? Were you at
I'd say it was probably 50-50.
Were you at Pinewood?
No, we were at Shepperton.
Shepperton, but you were over in England. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I lived in Richmond for a year.
Okay.
And we shot for 102 days. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
An editorial came over, and Dan St. Pierre came over. My production designer on Tarzan came over, and he was doing a bunch of storyboards. I started to shoot, and he was working out a couple of sequences with puppies, and that entire sequence at the end in the bakery was written, but was all worked out in storyboards and in animatics with Dan St. Pierre on the side.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. How much storyboarding did you use for the movie? Because I think more and more live action directors are using a lot more in the way of storyboarding.
Yeah.
I know Steven Spielberg has used storyboards for decades.
With
his filmmaking, but do you use quite a bit?
I came into the process into live action with a little bit of a misconception of how you put those movies together.
Yeah.
I didn't storyboard the whole movie. I really only storyboarded the pieces that had to do with dogs.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was going to have to hand off a lot of it to second unit. So I wanted to have a pass that was director driven. So I didn't do the whole movie. And I learned a huge lesson doing that, because I said, I thought to myself, I have to put aside being an animation director and I have to be a live action director and I have to do things the way live action directors do them. So I didn't storyboard it on purpose because I thought I had to go in raw and kind of react to what was in front of me. When the truth is, I should have used, not that I would have had the time either, right? So we were running to production. But I learned, and when I finally got to Enchanted, to take advantage of my skills, right? I was an animation director first and foremost. I figure out the movie that way. I understand what the arc of the characters are by storyboarding. So I did embrace it on Enchanted.
Okay.
And I said, hey, I don't need to shove this aside. That's what makes me special, right? That's my special skill.
And I know we're going to spend probably a whole episode talking about Enchanted, but stepping back onto 102 Dalmatians, what else did you learn from that experience when you look back on it?
I learned everything about making a live action movie. Everything. I knew nothing about lenses. I knew nothing about how to deal with a schedule and the unpredictability of weather. I knew nothing about how to pivot in the moment. I learned to problem solve. I learned to talk to actors under incredible stress, how to put away that stress so that you're not sharing it with the actors. Luckily, Glenn Close was there, and she was a great mentor.
And you were already comfortable with her because you had worked with her on
Yeah. And I had said to her in the very beginning, I said, I'll do this, but I'm going to need your support because I've never done this before. I'm incredibly confident that I can do it, but I'm going to need your help. And she was very helpful, very, very helpful. If I was having an issue, she recognized that I was struggling, and she would take me aside and say, hey, Kev, I think maybe we could do this, or from her experiences in the past. She would laugh at me sometimes and say, this is tough, huh? We'd be like in a tiny little trailer, shooting a scene in a little tiny space, trying to block with all this furniture in this little tiny space. And, Gerard Depardieu was acting like a nut, and we had to try to figure it out. And I was having trouble wrangling him while trying to get the staging down. We didn't have any time. We had like half a day to do it. And I was all stressed out. And she just took me aside and said, how about we do this? How about we try this? I know you're stressed out. Let's try this. It might be great to look at it from this way. Because she had made so many movies, right?
Sure.
She's
sort of an actor's actor. I mean,
yeah,
a total professional, not only on film but stage as well. So,
And whenever I also, being from animation and being a puppeteer, sometimes I can suffer from, I think, what has been called marionetting, which is trying to control all the bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And so she would call me out on that.
That's great. That really is.
No, and it was good. And because I felt safe with her, right?
Yeah.
I had nothing to lose. I knew she was looking out for me.
Sure. Now, you had a strong cinematographer that you relied on, and did you have a strong assistant director who was really used to live action sets?
Yes, absolutely. Someone who had worked for years. I'm trying to remember all their names now. Cliff Lanning.
Uh-huh.
And he was my age, so we were able to, he had huge experiences, like working on a lot of huge action movies.
Yeah.
And so we became great friends, and I think he knew to do that in order to get me through it.
Sure.
Right?
But he was somebody to lean on and say, hey, what do you think we should be doing here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Or, hey, have you thought of?
Right.
Or, we've only got an hour left. How about we do this?
Yeah.
And then you save back that, and we'll shoot that on the back lot later on another day.
Yeah.
Right? And we'll reconstruct this little piece of set. So he was really good at, he was a partner. He's a true partner.
Yeah.
I tried to get him on every other movie, and he's
Yeah, I was going to say that you forge those sort of relationships with people, and I was going to ask you, you try to bring the same people together.
We try to. The problem is that he's British, right? So the unions don't exactly want to talk to each other.
Right.
So yeah, I learned everything about making a movie. In the very, very beginning, Roger Pratt, who was Terry Gilliam's cinematographer, was my cinematographer. And he took me through like a 2-day tutorial on what the different lenses do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right? So he gave me some knowledge so we could so we can converse.
Yeah.
We could talk about the scene and what was important about the scene and how to create metaphor with the camera for what is happening in the dynamic of the characters. So that was great. Unfortunately, the studio didn't like his cinematography. They thought it was too muddy, maybe a little too gray for their liking. And this was a comedy, so the studio, forced me to fire him and get someone else.
What a shame.
Yeah.
But
we brought in Adrian Biddle, which was, he was like a huge cinematographer. He did Alien. Right, and he had done 101 Dalmatians, a live action.
Okay, so he was familiar with the property.
So he knew what he could jump right in.
Yeah.
So every movie has its hardships, right? So we had to deal with that as a company.
But 102 Dalmatians was really you being thrown in the deep end and swimming.
Yeah.
I mean, you learned a lot in a short period of time.
It was my film school, right? I got paid to go to film school.
Exactly.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was, what an opportunity. I could look back on it feeling proud. In the moment when the film was released, I was devastated.
Why?
To be quite honest with you.
Why?
Because I had made 2 movies that I felt like were mine, right? And I was incredibly proud of them, even though a Goofy movie didn't make much money. I looked at it and I said, I really accomplished something here. And I was very proud of it.
But you've been vindicated on that one.
Yes, but that's 30 years later, right?
Right, yeah.
In this moment, a Goofy movie was just a whisper,
Yeah.
And I had a huge success with Tarzan. So I came into this, and at the end of the day, the movie didn't do well, right? And it wasn't mine. It didn't feel like my movie.
You stepped in and finished the movie.
I made a movie. I did make a movie, and I can't step away from it. It is my movie.
But you didn't.
But at the end of the day, it wasn't
on it from the beginning.
Yeah, it wasn't my vision. right? It maybe wasn't the story that I would have told. And maybe I would have told, if I had more time, maybe I would have told this story differently.
Yeah.
So in the moment, I couldn't really see that. Years later, as my career kept going, I could look back and go, oh, I get what this was. This was an opportunity, right? I got this great opportunity, so I was very lucky.
So it got released and it didn't do well financially at the box office.
It didn't for whatever.
And no, when you look back, were there other films that were released? Was there more competition? Was
what I kind of point to?
Was it not supported?
No, it was supported. They put a lot of money behind it.
Okay.
And I think what it came down to at the end of the day, and I think a lot of films were sort of hit with this, especially family films, is that 101 Dalmatians lived in people's homes for years. It was on videotape, right? They watched it over and over again. They watched it on the Disney Channel. And so when 102 Dalmatians came out in theaters, it didn't seem special anymore. It was something that they were watching at home already. So they didn't show up. It didn't get great reviews, right?
Okay.
So that probably, helped put a nail in its coffin. But it also didn't feel special, I think, to the audience. So there was no reason to show up. I got one of the worst reviews I've ever gotten, a review that sticks to me to this day. It's so funny that, you can get 1,000 good reviews and it's one bad review that you remember. Someone said, and very cleverly said, Kevin Lima needs to go back to the drawing board.
Wow. Yeah,
I thought he was very clever, right? I mean,
yeah,
look at what he put together. But it was a knife.
Yeah, real backhanded.
It was a knife.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
So what did that do to you career-wise? Because it didn't do well. Did the phone stop ringing, or were you already moved on to something else?
No. The phone didn't ring, basically.
Yeah.
After that. And I got sent, and Disney didn't give me another movie. They weren't right there with another film.
Right.
And during the making of the movie, there was some turbulent moments with Peter Schneider. I think he became very agitated with everything. I mean, Peter could tell you a whole story about what he went through. Only he can tell you that story.
Sure.
But I think his reign did not go well as chairman.
Right.
Either. And so I got a lot of abuse from Peter.
Yeah.
That I got screamed at.
Which Peter was known to do over the years. He took frustrations that he was having out on other people.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I felt all of that. So when the movie was done and it didn't do well, I just didn't get asked to do another movie at Disney.
Yeah.
The phone wasn't ringing off the hook. There were a couple of things here and there that I was talking about. I turned down a couple of things just because, again, I was in this funk, right, about like I had to make it mine in order for it to matter.
Yeah.
And so the types of things I was being offered just didn't feel special to me. And so I think I went into kind of a depression at this point. And Brenda, my wife, sort of sat me down at one point and said, Kevin, if this is what working in this manner is going to do, maybe you need to rethink where you're at. Maybe if you liked animation better, you should return. So I was really pondering which path to take.
How much time did you take off?
I probably took off, let's see, 2000, probably a year.
Okay.
Probably there's about a year in there. Maybe a little less than a year, 9 months.
You feel that was good for you to take that year?
I think looking back, it was good for me because it helped me sort of work through and put everything in its place.
Yeah.
I'd rather dived right back in, right?
Yeah.
Taking on the next thing. Because I balance, failure is my biggest fear.
Sure.
Right. So most of us who create, keep driving forward because we have that fear.
Yeah, but you can't have success without failure.
Yeah. And I learned so much, right?
Yeah,
when I look back at it, when I went into my next movie, I knew so much. I knew how to handle different situations and how to handle my own relationship to making a live action movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So were you still committed to wanting to do live action?
I was struggling. I was struggling in
that year, so you were struggling, sort of vacillating back and forth.
I felt the failure of it, so I wanted to prove to myself that I could be a success.
Sure.
I think that was definitely a driver.
Yeah. And so what was next after that year of I mean, I don't want to sound crass about it, but it was a year of self-pity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I won't deny it. I had been talking to a couple of people, and along came the Eloise television movies.
Okay.
So I was approached to do those films, and they were very early in their development cycle.
So you were able to come on board and really feel like you had ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely did. And I knew how to begin the process as a live action director. How much control I did have, how much I could ask for, how much I could demand.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So we dove right in and started working with the writers.
And was it always the plan to do multiple Eloise movies from the get-go?
Yeah.
And were they going to be shooting simultaneously?
Always.
Okay.
Always. That was the idea. They were going to do 2 movies. They were going to shoot them simultaneously.
Yeah.
We were going to reuse the sets for both movies, which made perfect sense.
Absolutely.
And honestly, it was great for me because I'm one of those guys who gets bored a little easily, right? So when I was waiting around hours for dogs, I would think like on 102, I would think like, oh man, just shoot me in the head. This is so much waiting. So being able to juggle these 2 movies, on a much shorter time frame. We shot them in 42 days.
Both of them.
Both movies. Both.
And were you shooting on location in New York and doing sound stages?
Mostly all in Toronto.
Oh, so it was all up in Toronto. Okay.
All in Toronto. On locations, and we built on stages.
Okay.
So we built like the lobby of the Plaza Hotel.
On
a sound stage.
Wow. Nice.
And then we went to, we used different hotels for different settings.
Sure.
In the Plaza. And then we went to New York and did 2 weeks of exterior shooting.
Okay. On the streets in New York.
On the streets of New York. And we shot in the winter.
Oh.
And one that was great for the Christmas, right?
Yeah.
The Christmas episode, but not so great for the one that took place in spring. So we had to be really careful in angles that we used, and we could only shoot the plaza in one direction for the spring scenes. We actually went to New York for we had a splinter unit shoot background plates for a scene that took place in spring.
Okay.
For a carriage ride through Central Park.
Sure.
All that was done on green screen. So we used a lot of tricks to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was wonderful. I got to work with Julie Andrews.
Mm-hmm. Lovely person.
Oh, what a joy.
I mean, a total professional.
And that woman would show up every morning and say, "How are you today, love?" And my heart just melted because I would feel like Mary Poppins loves me.
Yes, yes.
So,
absolutely.
and she was great, and she was wonderful, and like Glenn, she would help me with moments because she had worked with her husband Blake Edwards, and she would say, "You know what Blake does in this situation? He just makes everyone do it faster. How about we do it faster?" And we would do it faster and it would be better.
Yeah, she's really a wonderful person. I had an opportunity to work with her on a project for the 40th anniversary of Mary Poppins,
right,
back in 2003, 2004. So she was just absolutely
she's wonderful,
a sweetheart. Yeah,
wonderful.
And by the way, that makes a huge difference when you're working on a project, and talent like that is professional and super nice. And grounded. Really, that's the word, grounded.
Right. And I realized working with Julie how an actor can help you navigate other actors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because she was totally present for Sofia Vassilieva, the girl who played Eloise.
Yeah.
And they became like best friends. And it made it so much easier to navigate the day because you had you had a collaborator, right? You had a buddy that was helping you get through it. So I mean, it was also fun because she could be a guttermouth when she gets frustrated. She would just swear like crazy. She couldn't get a scene, and she'd try again and again, and it wasn't working. She just let loose. And everyone would just crack up laughing because, here's this woman who you respect going off in a British accent. It was it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
And how did those films do for you? Because those were TV movies. Where did they air?
They ended up on ABC.
Okay.
The Disney picked them up.
Yeah.
And they did well. They got good reviews. They were on TV, so there wasn't the same kind of scrutiny, right? There wasn't the same kind of pressure to have box office. And I ended up winning the Directors Guild Award for Best Children's Programming for Eloise at Christmas Time. So I felt vindicated, right? Yeah. And as I was backstage being ushered to the press room, the guy who was with me, my the PA was with me, said, Kevin, your movie was the only movie that the judges watched from beginning to end.
Wow. That's a compliment.
That just felt really great because
that
was my peers, right?
Yeah.
That was my peers telling me.
Yeah.
And I went to the bathroom, and there's Clint Eastwood in the urinal right next to me. And he leans over and he nods, and he says, "Good job."
Oh my God. I would have been frozen. It was
very much a different sort of, like handing off the movie to the world. It felt totally different for me. And I felt confident and I felt in control of the movie. I storyboarded most of the film, right, as much as I could on our limited budget. I think we made 2 2-hour movies for $14 million.
Wow.
So we shot them really, really fast with a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
You said you spent 42 days shooting the two movies. How long then did you spend in editorial building the two movies?
It was a lot shorter also. I forget exactly how many weeks.
6 months?
No,
like
2
4
movies in 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'd worked with I worked with my editor on everything. Greg Perler, a Goofy movie, Tarzan, 102 Dalmatians. So we were very much in tune.
Yeah.
And it wasn't his first live action movie, so he had some experience.
Did he cut both of those, or did you have two editors?
He cut both of them.
Oh, he did cut both of them. Okay,
wow. Cut both of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was great. That was a really wonderful experience, and I felt like I was in control, and I knew what I was doing, and I was in control of the narrative, right? So I knew where each episode was going.
So you were vindicated in your mind. You won a Directors Guild Award, so the phone had to have been ringing off the hook then.
No, it didn't.
What? Why?
It didn't ring off the hook.
Why?
I don't know why. I think that it was a combination of some things. Looking back, I can probably, tell you why it happened this way. But there wasn't another live action movie right away. And I think part of it is children's children's filmmaking is a ghetto within the larger live action realm. They don't think if that's what you do that you're capable of doing a horror movie or a drama. They see you in a specific way. It was a television movie.
Okay. Telefilm.
So that kind of sort of sets you in a group away from everyone. So it really, it wasn't ringing off the hook. And I do think also, and this is my naivete, in not really understanding the business all that well, I had an agent at an agency that wasn't paying attention to me. I was at a big agency, and
you were kind of lost in the crowd.
I was a tiny fish in a big
pond. Yeah.
Right?
Did you rectify that when you realized it?
It took me a long time.
Did it?
It took me a long time to rectify it because I thought that my not getting a job was my fault, that I wasn't good enough. And I think my agent and my agency perpetuated that idea.
Okay.
To keep me in my place.
Yeah. So how long? So after 102 Dalmatians, you took a year off, and we talked about that, right?
Yeah.
But you got these two movies, you did them, you won the Directors Guild Award.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you off before your next project?
I wasn't off very long because I had
not a year.
No.
Couple of months.
No means. I got a call from my friends over at Disney Television Animation, and they were having some trouble with a couple of their direct-to-videos. So they asked if I would step in and help them. So I stepped in the last 6 months of Return to Neverland.
Okay.
And I took over that movie and went to Australia for a few months and helped them. I think we were able to change like 400 feet of animation.
Okay.
That's all. That's very, very little in the big
right in the scheme of things.
But we made a couple of changes. I think helped the movie. Mm-hmm. Gave it a new opening so you understand how you were diving into the film. We added a song for one of the characters to express their want. And I took that film all the way through.
Now, back to Neverland, was that all animated?
Return to Neverland.
Excuse me. Return to Neverland. Sorry, not Back to Neverland. Return to Neverland, was that all animated?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All animated in Australia.
Okay, so I am confusing it with Back to Neverland, which was the live action.
Back to Neverland was the combo live action animated,
right?
That Jerry Reese did for the parks.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes. We've had Jerry on the show.
Yeah. And you probably had Steve Moore on the show too, right?
Yes, we have. Yes,
Steve worked very heavily on that. Yeah. So this was Return to Neverland, which was a sequel to Peter Pan.
Got it. Okay.
And so I took that all the way through the mix and its release. And then I helped them with another project, Jungle Book 2.
Okay.
Which was much further along.
Yeah.
And I helped them through the end of animation. And then they took it from there and continued on. I think I took a special thanks on both of those movies.
Okay.
I didn't take any director credit.
But you were working, which was
I was still working while I was trying to get another live action job.
Yeah.
And then came The Wild, if you remember that animated film that was made by Disney live action.
The Wild.
It was The Wild. It had a very similar story. It was like a smash up of The Lion King and Madagascar.
Oh, right.
Where a group of animals escaped from a zoo.
Yes, right.
And they were having trouble.
Yeah.
So Nina Jacobson, who was my exec on 102, called and asked if I'd help.
Sure.
If I'd help them out. They were struggling. And she said, and in exchange for helping me, I'll give you a live action movie to develop.
And that is?
And we didn't know what that was at the time.
Okay.
What that was going to be. And I said, sounds like a fair trade. So I helped them with The Wild.
Okay.
Got them through their final months of, again, changing 400, 500 feet of animation.
Yeah.
Getting them through animation.
Helping the movie improve.
Helping them, yeah. Their animation director was still there.
Yeah.
So I was like helping with the story while he was, finishing animation, moving pieces through animation. I left before that movie was finished and started, while I was finishing that movie, I was offered Enchanted.
Okay.
To develop.
So I think that this is the perfect place for us to say.
We keep setting up this.
Yes, I want our listeners to be on the edge of their seats. So I think, Kevin, when we come back next week, I want to talk about how Enchanted began and just get into that picture, because that was such a wonderful film. And it's
the film that brings together all of my loves, right? Animation and live action.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to say thank you for being on the show, and we will see you next week.
Great.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Mark Cole, Director of Photography of The Quest, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast, where you hear the stories behind the adventures.
Let's get out of here!
Come on, Scotty, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
All right, Dave, another great interview with Kevin Lima in the can, and I can't believe it. It's part 4. We're just rounding the corner on Kevin Lima month. I can't believe it.
I know, it's crazy. But it's always great to talk with him. Such a nice guy, and the behind-the-scenes stories are fabulous. I think based on the comments that we're getting, people are really enjoying it.
Absolutely, and leave us those comments. We would appreciate it. And now let's wrap up the show. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the very end. We appreciate it. Please, if you haven't subscribed to our feed, please do that. We know that there's a lot of people out there that are listening. And every single one of you that like and share this episode and subscribe to our feed, whether it's on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform, does help the algorithm. Please also follow us on all our social media, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Instagram. We're there. Hit us up. Send us those emails as well, Dave or Aljon at skullrockpodcast.com. We would appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram, Aljon Go. That's the best place to touch base with me, see what I'm up to, and you can also check out my other podcast, Dining at Disney. We've got episodes coming out every single week where we talk about the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival, some foodie guides coming up, and of course the holidays coming to the Walt Disney World and Disneyland resorts. All those Mickey Christmas parties. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check out the Dining at Disney podcast. Dave?
Well, as always, you can check me out on the tunes behind the tunes on Sirius XM Disney Hits, channel 133. All during July, I am talking about the song Baby Mine from Disney's 1941 animated classic Dumbo. So check that out. It plays randomly on the Disney Hits channel on Sirius XM channel 133. Also, if you want to get any signed copies of any of my books, go to the Old Mill Press. You can get a signed copy of my House of the Future book, Claude Coates, 3D Disneyland, Kem Weber, my Find Your Happy Place, the 8-Step Guide to Boosting Your Creativity Through a Personal Retreat, winner of a gold medal at the Fire Book Awards. You can also go to my website, davidbossert.com, where there's all kinds of free articles on animation-related topics, as well as some free stuff that you can send away for. So check that out at davidbossert.com. And Aljon, with that, go out and have a fantastic week, everybody. The weather's been crazy. Be careful, and we'll see you back here next week, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.
The Disney travel deal of the week. Kristen trying to vamp. It's like, come on, go ahead.
Okay, so this travel deal just launched, and
with this one, you can save up to 20% on rooms this holiday season. So what perfect timing, right? Traveling for most Sunday to Thursday nights from October 12th to November 20th, and most nights from November 23rd to December 25th. So you can do an upgrade where you do the room and the ticket package. If you do choose to do that, and it includes a non-discounted standard theme park ticket, you will get the Walt Disney World Dining and Shopping promo card. If you stay at a deluxe or deluxe villa, you'll get a $100 card. If you stay at a moderate, it's $75 and $50 for value resorts. That is not bad if you decide to add on some tickets.
It's not bad at all. Well, this is just one of many travel deals that are going on right now. Kristen, where can people contact you, not only for Walt Disney World, but for Disneyland, also Universal Studios, Adventures by Disney, any cruise line that's out there? We just recently saw some behind-the-scenes footage for the Disney Treasure, which is really cool. Kristen, where can people book with?
They can contact me at Kristen@magicaljourneystravel.com, and that's Kristen, Kristen.